You're welcome. If you are just joining us here, we are onto the program House of Common. Our first topic today, we shall be looking at who benefits from the separatist imposed lockdown. The lockdown has ended 2 weeks. Who benefited from the lockdown? We've had a lot of incidents. People have been killed as far as that, and it is sad. Here in the studio, we are joined by gentlemen who are masters or have an understanding as to some of the political happenings within Cameroon. Mr. Mayor Ernest is someone who also have an in-depth look into this issue, a member of the civil society organization. Mr. Mayor Ernest, thanks for joining us. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday, Jarvis. It's a pleasure to be again with you here today. As we be looking into what has just transpired. Another lockdown during the school reopening. It's really pathetic, and we actually ask the question, who is benefiting? Those are the things that we are going to look at, try to give an answer to it. Thank you.
Mr. Kimbang Vidal is a member of Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, CPDM. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much, Mr. Jarvis. Thanks, Mr. May. It's my first time meeting on the panel. I think we are going to have very fruitful discussions, especially when it concerns the lives of our children. Those have been stopped from going to school. I think at the end of this, we should, as Jarvis has just said, we should be asking ourselves, both the government and the separatists, who is really benefiting from this conflict. Thank you.
Thank you. Also, we expect Mr. Nji Lucas, who is on his way from Boya. We also expect the presence of also Mr. Ndimu Emmanuel, who will also be here with us. I want to kickstart the program with you, Mr. Ernest, who you have experienced this lockdown, and this is not going to be the last lockdown because we are approaching October. We will not be surprised to hear that there's another lockdown, as the trend has always been. But the challenge here is that each lockdown, people die, and the people who die, mostly civilians. So who benefit from this lockdown?
Jarvis, it is not going to be a direct answer who benefits from this lockdown, because when you look at the genesis of the crisis, you're going to see at each stage of the crisis, there has always been hijacked. And you will bear with me that when this crisis started, it was just a manifestation that the judicial system should be amended, and the educational system should be amended to meet the needs of the society. But then, as time went on, we discovered that it was hijacked by separatists to push through their agenda. And even when Barrister Abobala repeatedly said it was time to stop these school boycotts because they were anti-human rights, he was not listened to. And you see how the separatists used it to push the agenda. In the end, now we are seeing another form of hijack from the separatists to other interested parties in schools. Like I will say that it is thinkable that those who have opened up businesses east of the Mongo here should, in one way or the other, be responsible for these lockdowns during school reopening. You can bear with me, Jarvis, that a parent will not bear to see the child stays 2 weeks back home. So what that parent will obviously do is to look for a school east of the Mongo where the lockdowns are not holding, so that they can send their children in time to school. So you will look at it in that perspective. And then there is this money-making issue when there are lockdowns. These guys or these separatists, they go around imposing the lockdown. They try to harass people, and it gives them something to feed on. You will see that there's always this need for them to do something that is going to put cash into their pockets, because actually, when you see with the crisis, we cannot actually say if their crises are drawing to an end or they are still beginning, but you will see that nothing has actually changed that really impacts the lives of those who are involved in the fighting. So they still need a means of survival, and creating these lockdown conditions will give them a way to actually make means of making things and enter into their pockets.
So you're saying that the person who benefits actually are the people from east of the Mongo?
Well, let us look at it this way. Why is it only coming out during school boycott? We have repeatedly stated that school boycott is anti-human right. It is anti-human right. And before school resumption, the opinion was that, and there were a lot of calls to that effect, that schools should resume effectively. But what happens when at the eve of school boycott, some people will come up, masked individuals that we cannot identify, giving funny names like General this, General that, and declaring that there's a lockdown in the period of school resumption. And the way you look at it, who actually has an interest that school should not reopen, if not the stakeholders in the educational sector?
Yeah. Which means that there could be possibility if investigation is actually done, those within the school sector, within each part of the Mongo. That's what you're saying.
That is one suspicion I have with me that those who have built educational institutions east of the Mongo will not want that schools to function normally in the other regions, northwest and southwest regions, because you know before this crisis, the northwest and the southwest region were considered as the educational bedrock of the country. So most people east of the Mongo will bring their children back to Bamenda, to Boya, in schools like Our Lady of Lords, Sase, Ashingom. Those schools were actually where there was a lot of influence, and you will go there and meet students east of the Mongo there. But now, you see, it was also business for those in that area. With the coming of the crisis, the business has been transferred this way. Do you think somebody who has a school here and he has seen the enrollment of that school grown up now will be very happy to see that a school can open in Bamenda that is going to reduce that population? Do you think that it's not possible for that person to engage in unorthodox means to maintain that population?
Okay, I will come back to you. Let me come to Mr. Akeba. Mr. Akeba, you are familiar most of the time you spend in Bamenda and Douala, which means you understand the culture of the west and the east of the Mongo. Who benefits from this? Because he just laid down something which is very serious and something that needs to really be investigated. Why is it that, as he asked rhetorically, why is it that when schools are to be resumed, it's when you start hearing lockdown, lockdown, lockdown? But when schools are not resuming, you don't hear lockdown. You don't hear lockdown. And now, he's from his assertion that probably those who have schools in east of the Mongo, those who have opened schools in east of the Mongo, probably who left the northwest have opened school east of the Mongo, could be one of those foiling the lockdown that, okay, block it for 2 weeks, because it's 2 weeks.
Yes, 2 weeks.
Then we send our kids to east of the Mongo. Then after that, you can open the schools. Who benefits?
Jarvis, you know, the genesis of this crisis started with the lawyers and the teachers. And most often, we cannot just roll out the fact that maybe some proprietors east of the Mongo are responsible for these lockdowns. But you have to know that one of the tools that the separatists are using, they are using children. And you know, they could equally have been maybe trying to lock down lawyers, but they don't have the possibility of doing it. So it's like children, school children now as a last resort. And when you go to the northwest and the southwest and you listen to what some of the radio stations and they're saying, it's as if they allow, or when you read from the social media, I mean, as if they allow children to go to school, it will be as if the crisis has ended. So most often, they always make it in such a way that when school is starting, like this past lockdown, what I got was that from most of the separatists abroad was that they don't want the government to take pictures of children during school opening to show to the world that the crisis has come to an end. Then secondly, they have this notion that the United Nations Security Council is sitting in September. And that they want to make it so that the United Nations sitting in September will know that things are not normal in the northwest and the southwest. So it's as if children now, since they cannot hold the lawyers captive, they have decided to hold the children captive. And we cannot really say that the ambassadors or the government or anybody is gaining. Because most of these people that are not going to school, they are also the children of the Amber fighters. They are also the relatives of the Amber fighters. And when you look at the situation in the northwest and the southwest, it is really, really a pathetic situation. Then, like what May just said, sometimes when you, like, I was in the Northwest 2 weeks ago. The suspicion was that those people who own schools east of the Mongol, they have paid the separatist fighters to call a lockdown. And sometimes these lockdowns are very, very funny. Yes, because you just when you are when it's as if the people in the Northwest and the Southwest, they know those periods where where lockdown comes up, because they know that when school is reopening, there will be a lockdown, and maybe you see people start preparing for it. They know that when it is 1st October, there will be a lockdown. People start preparing for it. They know that when it's 11 February, there is a lockdown. People and so on and so forth. So at the end of it all, you discover that the government is losing. The separatists are losing. Because when you look at the economic activities in the Northwest and the Southwest, for the past 2 weeks, it has died down completely. All the government offices are shut down. All the economic activities are shut down. And you can imagine the pain which these people in the Northwest and the Southwest are going through. Because most often, majority of the people in the Northwest, they live a hand-to-mouth life, meaning they have to go to the farm and farm before they eat. They have to go to market and sell before they have money to eat. And it even become worse in some villages, where separatist fighters have refused that people should not go to the farms. That people should, when it is locked down, it is locked down. And I've always trying to advise people that please, when there is a lockdown, we should not go out to risk our lives. Because you discover for the past week, many people have died. And nobody is going to hold another person, because they always hear this thing of people saying, the people should be brought to book. The people should be brought to book. And I think that if these ambassador fighters are somewhere where they can be brought to book, it is not have been today that we were talking about bringing them to book. We have brought them to book since long ago. So my advice is always that when you assess your security and you know that if I go out, I will come back strong and healthy, you can go. But if you know that you will go out and you will not come back, please, when these guys say these things, remain in the house. Because these are people that don't have uniforms. These are people that you cannot identify them. You cannot say that this is an Amba fighter, this is not an Amba fighter. Because when you are in a city like Bamenda or Boya or Kumba or Moyoka or all these cities, the guys are also in town, they're riding bikes, and even they are in off licenses, they drink with people. Since they don't have identity, since you cannot identify them, you at any time you are at risk. And these are people who are not trained. When we talk about the Geneva Convention and the rest, they are not even aware of it. So there is no need risking your life when they say, okay, you people should stay in the house. And I always plead with my government that a genuine dialogue, I've said it here time and without number, a genuine dialogue is what can bring us out of this crisis. Because when you look at it, you say some separatists have dropped arms and we are celebrating. When we celebrate, for example, when they say it was rumor that, when General Shina Rambo dropped the arm, it was good news, everybody was happy. But we still have so many thousands of such General Shina Rambos in the bush. So my advice has always been that let the government try to see how another dialogue can be conducted so that this crisis can come to an end. Because people, if we don't have a genuine dialogue, people will see shelter under the separatist fighters to kill, to destroy. Because when you look at it now, anybody who is a thief or who is an ardent criminal, he has the right now to operate fully under the banner of, I am an Amba fighter. Whereas maybe if we have had a genuine dialogue where everybody is satisfied, the population will help to trace out these people. And I'll also beg that when soldiers or police people are sent into this war zone, when they go there, they should try at all means to be friendly with the population, because they can only get information from the population. On their own, they cannot do it. Somebody who was sent from Yaoundé to go and combat separatist fighters in Bamenda, he does not know the terrain. He can only be directed by those people who live in Bamenda. And if you go there and you decide to engage on extortion, know that you are blocking information from reaching you. And it will be very difficult for you to trace these guys out and bring them to justice.
Yeah, okay. We have just been joined by Mr. Nji Lucas, who is from the Southwest region, the town of legendary hospitality, and a promoter of effective school resumption, who have put his own resources, self-funded, to make sure that students and those within the affected crisis region have education from his pocket. And so far, he's been doing a good job as far as that is concerned. Mr. Lucas, happy Sunday, and thanks for joining us.
Same here. Thank you very much, and happy Sunday to my co-panelists.
How are your kids doing? The kids, I'm talking about the ones you are taking care of.
That's right. You know, on the third, on the eve of resumption of the school year, we did what we called back to school haircut and back to school purging of your system, where the kids, we gave them haircuts, we provided books and other materials for them, and we also dewormed them, because we noticed that within this said period, they had a lot in their mouth, had a lot that went into their stomach, and it was very obvious that they needed to push out their system and to ensure that the bacteria they did consume, that should be taken off. Sadly, immediately after that Sunday, they went into hiding for 2 weeks, counting. Yeah, they went into hiding for 2 weeks, counting, and someone is somewhere definitely enjoying it, and why they are lavishing, they are not going to school, and we shall be looking at those who are making benefits from this.
Yeah, because that's my question now to you. I wanted to have that their state of preparedness. Now, who benefits from this? Because before you came in, Mr. Ernest was actually, he expanded the responsibility. He said maybe it's time also to look at those proprietors who have come to the east of the Mongo open schools and to start investigating, because why is it that it's only during effective resumption you start getting no school and schools are being attacked? And so from your own knowledge on this, who actually do benefit? Because the parents are not benefiting, eh?
Yes, I think we will not limit the beneficiaries of this only to the set period of back to school. I think we should look at the beneficiaries of the conflict.
Yes.
Because the beneficiaries of the conflict we have, those for back to school are just a microcosm of those who benefit from the conflict. And there is no gain that no conflict has a reward than those who are actually manufacturing arms and those who are extorting, those who are on the missions to rape, to maim, to kill. These are persons who do make benefits from every conflict. And within the conflict of the country, Cameroon, and those particularly in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, as we all know, the beneficiaries are not limited to the separatists. If you look at the actions that are on the ground, I want to begin with the security forces of Cameroon. And I've always said that Biya and his team were given the opportunity some years ago by Cameroonians to lead the country to a better position, to a better state where Cameroonians should live and enjoy that which is enshrined in the constitution, which belongs to them. And on this note, they are not doing us a favor. Biya and his people are not doing Cameroonians a favor by being at the helm of the country. It is a responsibility they accepted constitutionally, democratically, that was given to them. And we have always said these things, and when it's said, some people who barely have understanding with regards to this have their own interpretation, but I think it will be good that they get the appropriate interpretation of this. Now, there is only one person in the Republic of Cameroon who have the responsibility of the people's welfare, the social, the political, and the economic welfare of the people. It is the government of Cameroon. Cameroonians gave them this mandate some years ago, which by 2025 it will elapse. And whenever there is a conflict, if you look at all the UN charters, if you look at all the charters, if you go to the African Charter, you go to the UN Charter, there is one thing which is recurrent. the state and the government, not the people you call those who are causing or wreaking havoc on the people. They do not have a responsibility. The Cameroon government has the Cameroon government has the sole responsibility to ensure that the people of the Northwest and Southwest live in total peace and harmony, because they are the only legitimate people we have on the ground. And that is why I say I'm going to begin with the forces of Cameroon, the security forces. If you look at the security forces, I want to start with them. I want you to go back to whenever there is what is called lockdown days, because I am aware that it is lockdown to you, it is not lockdown days. Firstly, those who extort on the roads, they increase their fare.
Yes.
It leads from 500 to 1,000.
When you say those who extort from the road increase their fare, what do you mean?
I've come to Douala severally during lockdown days in court. And the drivers who always stop by to give the gendarme officers, the police officers money on the road, they always tell them that today is 1,000 CFA francs. And they'll tell you that today is ghost town. They'll tell you that today is lockdown.
But I didn't know people were supposed to demystify the
That
lockdown.
is why I said I am going to begin with them. I start with the person who has a responsibility. I've always told my children, I am the first respondent to your welfare. Any other person is being benevolent to you. I have a duty. And it's the same thing we have to look at with regards to the state of Cameroon. The government of Cameroon is the sole person responsible when this is concerned. And when you look at what is happening, for example, we are aware that during this period, there is high level of allowance being awarded to these guys. I want to give you a case, a first-hand case within this 2-week period that occurred in Moliko in Boya. A certain armored car stood on the street and was firing shot arbitrarily, seeing nobody, and you were firing shot. What is the purpose of you deterring the people to go back to their hideout?
At the time when people come out, and
some had braved the odds, left their houses, came to open their shops, some were about going out for their businesses, and you were firing shot. That further deterred them and got the place terribly deserted. And at the end, they went back into their shell.
Which, is that not an enforcement of lockdown? And
that is where we say, what is the purpose for they to come up with this strategy? I am talking to the person I gave the responsibility to. Democratically, I elected you. I elected the head of state. I ensured that he is put there. When I am saying we, I'm talking about the fact that elections were conducted and he emerged the winner. And in a democracy, I accept what comes out of it, which I accepted in 2018, that yes, he got it. And I expect that his forces, the forces that are being paid by the Cameroonian people, should be at the people's service. But they are rather serving as a king to the people, which makes it very complicated. Now, this is where I say the beneficiaries of lockdowns are not solely the separatists. Let me come to the separatists. I am aware, I'm a human rights defender, and what I always say is this: it's obvious that the separatists, they have abused my right. My freedom of movement was abused. My freedom of education was abused. My right to education was abused. My right to economic activity, my right to move, every other thing that had to do with my right within this period, as long as the separatists are concerned, that was totally abused. But to think that the person who has a responsibility to ensure that I go out peacefully violated the right by firing shots that got me deterred and I had to go back into my shell, has a greater question, a greater answer.
To protect you,
the one who is charged,
to call you that come out, I'll protect
constitutionally
you.
Under normal circumstances, under normal circumstances, they are expected to ensure that the communities, and this is where some of us tend to look at it as if it's some game of what we call in the military parlance in times like this, the expendables. Because there are things that are happening, and you may want to think they are happening because you see the way they are happening. Okay. The separatists, they are aware. I've always told them, yes, there is coming a time I can start quoting to you persons who did all what you're doing, thinking that they are living in a foreign country, and they were fished out, and they were brought to book, and they went to jail. They went through the ICC, they went through the ICJ, they were convicted, and they were condemned to jail. So I am aware that these ones, they are already heading towards there. So I cannot sit back to start saying that what they are doing and what they are not doing. I keep telling them daily. All the separatists are aware that there will be a day, because we are documenting every single thing that's happening. Okay. We cannot mince words. We should say them the way they are. And on this note, I don't think I will be holding those people accountable, because there is an international instrument and a local instrument that will bring them to order. The people I need to hold responsible, the more, is the state of Cameroon, because within this period, if you look at the allowances this guy will receive, if you look at what is happening on our roads, it saddens my heart every time I see the level of security, the way I see them. Yet, children could not be protected. The people could not be protected. So who would you say is not making gain in this?
So you extortion, you said from 500 to 1,000.
So what necessitates that?
And the
lockdown.
Who is supposed to protect, telling you that, don't you know that it's lockdown?
Good.
You have to pay 1,000.
You get it. So who is rather charged with my security? He's supposed to protect me.
We have just been joined by Jerome Emmanuel. And Jerome, thanks for joining us on Happy Sunday.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a pleasure joining you guys. You know, I want to apologize for my late coming. It's not my habit to join platforms very late.
Yeah, that's
but due to uncontrolled circumstances.
My question to you is, Lucas just made some great index there as far as the issue of who benefits is concerned. And also Mr. Ennis also made mention of something which I will be revisiting. I'll come back to him because he talked about the fact that there could be possibilities where those who have schools east of the Mongo could be the ones following the boys to do lockdown for their schools to be effective. Now, Mr. Lucas talked about the fact that there was a certain incident that happened in Moliko, because he lives in that area, during the period of lockdown, that those who were charged to protect lives and properties, one certain armor car came at the center of the road, was just firing shots and scaring people. Now, my question now to you, and also is that we look at also the issue that happened along the Tiko Douala Road, where innocent civilians driving back to Boya were shot, killed. In Moya, also similar situation happened. On both sides.
I'm so much concerned with the one of Moya, because I want to think that we have somebody there who has been fighting Amber tooth and nail. It should be Moja. And I was asking myself, for all this while, where has Moja been?
Yeah, why indexing Moja now?
No, he has been charged with...
But he's not here to defend himself.
No, I am appreciating him, except you don't want that to appreciate him. Except for a very long time, he has been doing a great job by arresting especially Amber from Northwest. And this time around, I don't understand his sudden disappearance. That things are happening right at his backyard, and he's silent. So I want to appeal to him to come back to his former self, so that Amber can disappear and let Boya be a peaceful place as it has always been. After all, I was thinking that nothing existed in Southwest again like Amber. So it's only this school resumption that has made us again to understand that there was we equally understand that there could be amber exported from some regions to the Southwest. That said, I want to think, and I'll be very blunt, the lockdown benefits many people. The only people it doesn't benefit are people like you and I. You see, let me quote the instance in Bamenda. Before the war, from Mobinkwen to Mbingo was 600 francs. Today, from Mobinkwen to Mbingo is 4,000 on a good day. When the day is not good, it is 6,000. And I can guarantee you that all your sources will not contradict me. From Bamenda to Fundong, which used to be 1,000 francs in the bus, 13-seater bus, and 1,300 francs in a taxi. As I speak to you right now, it is 8,000 francs. Now, why is there an inflation in the prices of transportation? Because the military people are there, they collect. The Amber collect. Let's be very frank to ourselves. You know, and the manner of collecting is not in a way that it wastes any time. Because, you know, in an attempt to waste time while collecting guns, the opponent can come from somewhere and start shooting. So the manner of collection is in a very smooth way, that the language is very silent, that the drivers, they just make out their hand like this, the policeman, they just collect, or the gendarmes, or the military. Of course, I don't see anywhere in our law where we are told that the military are supposed to control cars. First, there's a problem there, because I think it's supposed to be the duty of the police and the police officers first. The gendarme officers only come in for certain documents. But then the military people now happily control plus ID cards. Plus ID cards in the state of law. That's already a violation of the law. After controlling, they collect. Like I said, they don't waste time in that part of collection. The collection just go like that, zap, because they don't speak. They know what they have to do, and they just do it, and the amount, they just do it quietly without any noise. Now the Amber boys have a very long basket, longer than that one at the altar in church, where when you reach there, you just know that this is what I am supposed to drop as a male. As a female, this is what I'm supposed to drop. I'm failing to drop, you know the charges that will be leveled against you, and you go in for it.
In which court?
In the court of Amber. In the court of Amber. I said it's a certain. I have a friend who traveled for the burial of the father's brother and was taken by Amber boys because the amount they asked, he could not pay. And they said, but we said there was a lockdown. Who asked you to even dare? And he was even boarding by a bike. Do you know how much he paid to be free from the Amber cell? He paid the sum, they asked the sum of 200,000 francs. After pleading and crying and showing all the proofs of the material for the burial, they pitied him and they collected 100,000 francs. In all of this, to answer your question in a very summary way, Amber is benefiting from lockdown, military is benefiting from lockdown. Only those who have not been on the field would think the contrary. Those who suffer from the lockdown are your mother, my mother, that poor woman who only goes to the farm to feed. And this, I'll be asking this question to Amber. When you declare a lockdown for 2 weeks, and at the same time, you are asking people to pay a certain sum of money. As I speak right now, there is a woman in my village who has been taken after when the political propaganda went in Fundong that Amber was a thing of the past. The guys came back in full force as I speak to you now. Uncontrollable. They have collected few people. This woman, they have not seen him. We don't know her location. But from what I gathered last night is that the boys who switched off her phone immediately are asking for 2 million. Okay. If 2 million can replace a life, there is no problem. But how do we get the 2 million? When you have banned routes from passing Boyo, Bamenda, you have stopped all economic activities that used to go on that could generate some income, where these people can fish out the money and give to you and give to you. Are we not struggling to be Hitler in the name of wanting to free our people? How do you free a people? By hooking their necks all in a net. Okay. Because I've always said, and I still think, if the Cameroon military for the past 60 years was acting like some of these Amber boys, the separation of Cameroon would have been automatic. We wouldn't have waited till now to separate. Their barbarism would have automatically separated Cameroon. So at one point in time, I am thinking, if I'm faced with Amber and I'm faced with military, let me say it clear, I'll go to the military. because at least if the military tortures me, I know where I can
go and
report and hold them accountable. I don't know any Amba court where I can report General Kobo, General Wawa, also. The only court is that their judgment is now, here, now, which is
without due process.
I want to think that if the state of Cameroon permitted these boys to go this far, it is one of the biggest failures that shall be inscribed in the history of Cameroon, especially in the regime of President Biya. So nobody should ever tell me that Mr. Biya succeeded. It's a failure in his part.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's take us a message back come to Mr. Ernest. This one says, greeting to you, greeting to the crew on duty. The list of beneficiaries are many. The business people, almost everyone apart from the common people. For the business people, a crate of beer in Douala, which is profiting 600 francs in Bamenda, is now 1,800. They are gaining. The Clando drivers and the Okada people has quadrupled their price. Even those supplying the arms benefiting, even the ladies selling okrika have doubled their price of dresses. Since children don't wear uniform, even the government is benefiting from making time, because the government have the solution, but the government has vehemently refused to solve it. And that is coming from an anonymous sender. This one, right, it says, my message is who is fooling who. I greet you guys all in the House of Commons, and especially salute to Mr. Jarvis and to my strong and always brother, Mr. Doom Emmanuel. We are always glad when we see people like him in the panel. Like I said, my message is who is fooling who. Who, as far as this crisis is concerned, I say this because we will always hear that some separatist fighters have dropped arms and some few greedy people will be jubilating, and later when they say lockdown is announced, we see so many separatist fighters who come out to enforce lockdown. When we will never see any military on action to push them back, but they will come after the voices. They will come after the voices must have finished their display and go back to their hidings and start to terrorize the population, putting some to sit down in the mud like what just happened in Moya last week. So now my statement of who is fooling who is directed to the government. Government officials who always celebrate when they say a separatist has dropped arms, when 1 or 2 persons drop arms and 10 or more persons join the next day. Who is fooling who? Please, sir, let the government sit up. I am Eli writing from Kumba. And also, this one writes, Mr. Samuel from Douala says, we depend on so much to our government, being a government that will not want to see our citizens suffer in the hands of some people who do not have any responsibility. To this, I mean the state should be very wise in reacting to situations, mostly when people who don't have any responsibility are trying to bring suffering to the citizens of Cameroon. And this other one, right, this is happy Sunday to you, Mr. Jarvis. All Mondays from September to June at 26 Mondays. From September to June at 26 Monday. 1 week each of 1st of October, 11th February, 20th May, Labor Day plus 2 weeks of September is 6 weeks plus. All Mondays equal 2 weeks plus some days equal 8 weeks, 2 months of school. Therefore, education this way is for 8 weeks and not 10 weeks. Parents of the English-speaking region, let's start preparing for a serious brain drain because we can't cope. This is Masu writing. Mr. Jarvis, the second speaker is very correct. At the sound of the gun at checkpoint last week, paralyzed everyone. He is very correct. It was the military who did that because they did not want it to stop. Because they did not want to stop harassing young boys and locking them up to pay 25,000 francs upwards. This is serious allegation. Let me come to you before I will continue on the messages. Mr. Ernest, you have listened to some of the messages, and you also listened to what Mr. Lucas said. But you said something a while ago about the fact that you said, let me make sure I get it. You said the separatists hijacked the movement, and that it was a lawyer and the teachers movement. But is it not the government that gave room for the separatists to hijack the movement? Did the government not give them on a platter of gold? Because before that, the government knew that there was a Southern Cameroonian movement. There was an Ambazonian movement boiling, which we know every 1st of October we have been seeing tension and people being, there have been, every 1st of October before the crisis, ban of meetings and the rest, that always come before 30th of September, you say communicate. This was an indication that something was happening. And now when the teachers came in on the 17th of January, Barra and Co were arrested. What was the government thinking at the time when they were in full negotiation with this person, arresting them, cutting down internet, knowing fully well that there was already a breeding of separatists? So should we not still say that the government is responsible for this?
Jarvis, you know, one thing gives birth to another. So I will say that at one point the government has been short-sighted to foresee that if I have to stop negotiations with these people, this can lead to this. Because you will bear with me that tensions were really high during that time, and then to be foresighted needed to foresee into the nearest future how would this tension be vented. So the government actually did not foresee that. I can say they were short-sighted at that point, and that actually led to the situation we have today. You know, to be foresighted is not the gift of everybody. It's not the gift of everybody. And
when you say it's not the gift of everybody, we have intelligent community. We have the gendarmes, we have the police, we have the B, we have this police of police, gendarme of gendarme, we have the presidential court. These are intelligent officials that give, no, I don't want to look at those political institutions.
Let me put it this way. The government has gathered its intelligence that these people were being teleguided from behind. When they sit on the table of negotiation to discuss, they need to go out and make us. We are at this point of negotiation. We have heard those allegations during some press conferences that they need to go out and make us. We are at this point of negotiation. They say, hold on tight, a demand for this. And the government discovered that what they were doing as negotiation was not going to lead to anything. That's why they decided to go full-fledged. As it stands today, I can say the government is still in control of most of the things that are happening, despite the terrorist acts that are being perpetuated on the people. But the government is still in control. You will not show me a territory that the terrorists or the separatists have conquered and they're in full control in that territory.
Okay, now let me come. You said, I'm not putting you on the spot, but I just want clarity. We are granted that these guys have not had ceded a territory. But what happened when they give command and things happen? The 2 weeks lockdown.
The 2 weeks lockdown is because of the terrorist acts that they perpetrate on the people.
Which means that
everybody is afraid to go out because he is not sure of what is going to encounter. That is terrorism.
Is that not an act of acknowledging that these boys actually have control of the area?
You know, let's first of all define again terrorism. Using violence, force to implement your wish, and it doesn't constitute a legal or a recognized part to something. So when it is already classified as terrorism, it is terrorism by the state. And even if we are suffering the effect, the state is still in control. I will not say that the separatists can give a guarantee in a territory where those who are in their support can go there and feel safe, that government forces will not go there and molest them. But the government can give territories where you can go and stay, and the separatists will not be able to molest you. So if for the past 4 or so years of fighting, without taking even an inch of the territory to give it as guarantee to the people who are supporting their cause, it's already enough for them to understand that the path they have taken is a failed one. It is now time for them to do some other considerations on how to let the burden get off the soldiers of the people, because the people are the ones bearing the brunt of all the fighting that is going on. If it's to sponsor the separatists, the people are there. To pay taxes, the people are there. So we are actually stifling the people with all these things. The government will still want the people to pay taxes. The separatists will still want people to pay ransom so that they should continue sponsoring their fight. So it is the people who are bearing the brunt. If we actually care for the people, they need to think of another way out in order to address the issues at hand. We should keep emotions aside and look at some reason intellectually. We should use our brains to reason and keep emotions aside. You know that this crisis has been characterized by a lot of emotions, and emotions are actually misleading. So it is time to actually think through the actions. we have admitted the government failed in arresting the situation, but the government responsibility in arresting the situation, maybe the government has said, okay, let me arrest these people that they are standing in front, so that the string puller behind should show its face, and that's where Amber came out. That should be seen. Now the government went head-on collision with the Ambers and is still in control of most of the things. So we should admit that the government is still resolving the issues in the way it knows best.
Okay. I'll be coming back to you, Mr. Kimbang. I want us to look at, talked about the fact that the separatists are doing this because the one UN will be, this UN sitting will be, UN General Assembly will be in a couple of days, and you say the separatists are probably doing this to let the UN know that things are not going well, and also that's why they are holding on to schools. But don't you think that if churches were to be destabilized, it will create more wave than schools? If churches were to be locked down, it will create more wave than schools. And don't you think that also if the markets were to be locked down, it will create more wave than schools? What is so particular about shutting down schools whereas markets are still active and the people go on the street and they do their businesses? For example, let's say on a normal Tuesday, nothing stopped Moya. Let's say students are not going to school, but the town is in full swing. So what stopped the government from taking pictures and saying life is normal back in Moya, a part of schools? Why are we? And secondly, since they have been sending messages to the UN Security Council that things is not going well every September, what has changed? And what will change in September for the UN Security Council? Of which in all chapter, as Mr. Lucas put it, they say it's the government, it's the government, it's the government. Who knows about the UN Security Council?
No, before I react to that, let me come to what the woman said. You know, I live in Bamenda, and I've always said that when people are given posts of responsibility, they should do it with love. What the woman say is actually very correct. The other day I left Commercial Avenue going to Bambili. There are more than 13 checkpoints. Yeah. Yes. And I was asking myself, what are these people really checking? What are they really checking? And when you look critically, you discover that those who sit in offices and give order for these guys to go outside, that is those things that they do are not the thing that those people in the office have instructed them to do.
Probably.
Yes. Because I said so because there was an incident in Bamenda where General Buba was coming back from, who was in Douala, coming back. When he reached at my 5, he discovered that people were in the rain going to show ID card to the officers who were at the checkpoint. And he was surprised. He told them, is it what I've sent people here to come and do? And you know, these young guys who are in this military, the other day, a young girl was passing. A military man called the girl to come. It was very early in the morning. I was in the office. The girl said, no, I'm going to my own duty post. It was this private security guard. The man commanded the girl to come and threatened that he was going to shoot. The girl came. He said, okay, go and carry water. I was threatening that you're going to pour the water on that girl. That is not what the government has sent him to go and do. That is not what the government has sent him to go and do. So, most often you discover that people who go up there, they have been sent by the military, they are sent by the government to make sure that the security of the persons up there are guaranteed. But there's this common say, they know that if I go to the northwest and the southwest and I come back and I cannot build a house and I cannot buy a car, whoa, means that I have not been there. Say it openly. They say it openly.
To go for 5 months without going to the bank. That's what they say.
I have been a witness when they are doing what they call, they are swapping, those who have walked and they are going back and those who are coming. And when they are going, you see them loading things. You see fridges, you see flat screen televisions. Sometimes you even see goats and see pigs and see dogs. These are not things that the government has sent them to go and do. And at the end of it all, the blame falls back to the government. The one coming to your question, you know, they believe that people sympathize with the children more than the church.
So the market, don't be sympathize with the market.
No, you should not be calling for an attack on the church.
No, I'm not calling on the attack on the market of the church. I'm just saying that why do you want so particular about schools?
Yeah, because I did ask that question.
What's so particular?
If we see children, they go to the streets to hawk.
They go to market.
They go to the market. They go to church. Why don't we allow them go to school?
Go to school.
This is the question I always ask the separatists.
They want to strike that particular point that will hurt.
So what?
Because the market, how many children go to the market?
Which is now using education as weapon.
Very good. Which is
so
very
sad.
bad.
So sad.
You know, you say that a drowning man can
go on to
yes, that's what they're doing. Because they have exhausted all the methods. They said when the crisis started, they said no, there was a blank school year and that it didn't work. They have used all the methods and now the only thing that they are hanging on is education. So I'm always pleading, and I will say it time and again, please.
I want to go back to my question, Mr. Kimba. Still don't understand. Let me take Munya as a case study.
Yes.
From Tuesday to Sunday, the students are not, assuming that they are not in school, all things being equal,
yes,
but the streets are flooded.
Yes.
The market goes, everything goes, the bar and the nightclub, everything is booming.
It's a strategy.
So can't the government just go back there and take pictures and send to UN and that, see, town is busy, it's not deserted, as compared to 2018 when the town used to be deserted. That things is normal. So what's so particular now about schools? That the market is functioning effectively, the churches are functioning effectively, the streets are effective, interquarters are playing, and the My 17 is booming.
No, these are people with very limited reasoning. They have limited reasoning. What I got from the social media the other day is that if schools start the very day that other schools are starting, it means that they are failed. So the one that, because the impression was that government was going to go around, take pictures, then go and show that no, this is 4th of September, everything has started in Cameroon normally. So they are not just hanging on school, which is very, very bad.
Let me just quickly ask you a follow-up for coming back to, I'm sure it's you. Okay. You said that the military, the government sent them in good faith,
yes,
to go and restore order and, yes, to protect lives and properties.
Yes.
But rather some of them indulge in unorthodox practices which is repugnant to what they have been sent to do.
That's right.
Now my question to you is it not because they are not being punished enough that motivate them to continue to do these things? That is happening because I'm sure the government cannot claim that they are not aware of some of these unorthodox practices, especially if you want to really know. You drive from here to Boya on a regular Monday. You will actually drive, you see these practices being done. Especially when you walk the street of Moliko on a regular basis. From My 17 to Moliko, just take a stroll up and down.
That's why I said that.
Is it not because the government has decided not to take its own responsibility to punish those defaulters who go against the actual norms?
In this case, there's a question: who is the government?
The leaders.
The leaders. Yes.
Like you said, General Buba took an action. I don't know the kind of action that we need to be taking.
You will not expect that General Buba should be at every place at any time. That is the problem.
But they have coordinated activities.
Yes.
They are colonels.
Yes. They are colonels there.
We have captain, we have unit heads.
Yes.
And those people too, since they don't have conscience, they still work in complicity with these guys.
So if I get your conclusion therefore is that the system is failing.
That's the summary.
That's the summary. Because if you cannot do check and balance, it means that you're failing.
If you cannot call your people to order.
In the summary, all of us are failing.
No, I cannot pull inside.
Mr. Lucas,
yes.
I want to cue in from what the woman said. He said something that the military is not supposed to be at the check ID card and the rest as what we are witnessing. I want you are a human rights defender. You have knowledge in legal issues. We know in state of emergency, the military has a full power. And there's no due process. But to the best of my knowledge, and maybe I'm wrong, Cameroon is not under state of emergency. And state of emergency has not been declared in the northwest and in the southwest region. But how do we still have this some of undue process to those who are supposed to guarantee due process? Like, for example, people are arrested and they are asked to give money, 25,000, and people are being treated without any due process.
Yeah. I'll be coming to your question. when they did a raid in Moya, some persons were asked to pay 200,000, 300,000, 100,000 before they were released. I think what I would say on this is that these people were taken captive and they had to pay ransom. That action is not different from that which Amber does, because it is not within our law.
It is
as simple as that. So, in a nutshell, we are saying that there are some gendarme officers, police officers, some military men who also receive ransom because you are kept. In that sense, because you are not supposed to, there is a law on that. Now, for example, if you carry out a raid and you think someone is suspicious on a particular thing, such a person could be remanded. The law says you could keep such a person for 72 hours. It is renewable. Now, the state council has to be informed in that process. If you go to look at what happened in Moya, those who paid the ransom to those you must have considered, or what they consider as bail, you know, they use very soft words, that I bailed myself 100,000. No, you paid ransom 100,000 to that guy who caused
money does not go to the state.
Yes, to the man whom we have given the responsibility to protect us and our property. You pay ransom. It doesn't go to our state treasury, of course. It goes into his pocket. He goes to a certain nightclub and gives that girl 10,000 francs to buy a cup of tea at a certain moment, because he did not suffer for it. The salary which he receives, he cannot use it like that. Coming back to your question, there is a law on this. And what we have to understand here is, these things are not happening without most of their superiors being aware of it. We cannot be everywhere at the same time, but we can be everywhere at the same time. We are in a situation where no one believes what is being said until when you see it for yourself, which is true. It is basically the law that we practice in the Anglophone system of our legal system. So, if you look at this situation, Jarvis, this is where the people are caught. This is where the people are caught. Those who are charged to protect them are rather the ones who are inflicting pain on them.
And also, how do you understand the situation where I say, okay, I want to restore independence, and I go to Moya, to somebody who probably maybe has an emergency issue, health issue, struggle to get to get something to do. You burn that person, you shoot, you burn, and the same situation happened on Friday, where someone was coming to Douala. What harm did that person pose to the separatists that they had to shoot them on close range, kill them, and go to say we are the enforcement ghost? How do we reconcile this now?
Yeah, I think it's as simple as this. To the separatists, I would say it's simple, right? To every unit there is a commander. Now, everyone who is said to be a separatist leader, home and abroad. Interestingly, in Cameroon, those who are carrying out this carnage, they always get themselves on video and they send it to the public. We document them. We take the face. There is the face recognition devices that are there. We have these people. They are documented. There will be a time when you sit, after all this is said and done, they will call them up for this. Let me tell you, amnesty is not given to everybody. For those who think that when they talk about amnesty, it's not given to everybody. The reason why amnesty is not given to everybody is because there are people who say they are not part of you, so you don't give such a person amnesty. You give amnesty to Cameroonians. And when you look at the situation on the ground, the separatist leaders abroad, they say it openly, that you have to do this to enforce. My niece, I keep saying this, the fingers were chopped off in CDC Banana in Tico, and her crime was that she went to work some time ago. That was her crime. So when they caught them, they chopped off her fingers and said, you go to work. Who told you to come to work? You get it? So the separatist leaders we have them indicted in our minds. And when the right time comes, you will see them going down for their crimes. They will pay for that which they are doing. They are not going to go free. None of the separatist leaders doing this to the people, carrying these terrible actions on the people, will go free from this. Okay. That should be said and done. So we should not, the only thing we are saying is that the person who has a responsibility, you know, when we say these things, some people would think that that is not the way it has to be. Let me tell you, if you listened to Cameroon Calling this morning, if you listen to what Chief Atem Ebako said, I'm sure you definitely listen to Cameroon Calling, then you will understand when he talked about we are no longer secure. You will understand when we say things are not the way that. If you listen to what the governor of the South region said, then you will understand. But what beats my imagination is, whenever we say these things, it is said that that the military cannot be everywhere, they cannot do everything at any time, every time. The people should give up their children. They are their children. This is what he always said. They are their children. They are their brothers. They know them. Terrible. I want to say this. Terrible. I want to say this to the governor who always said that they are their children, they should give them up. Sir, you saw the situation in Moya. We have forces in Moya. Like you were asking about who should do what. Is it right? When there is a situation like this, we are not in a state of emergency. Let me give you the parameter. You have the police, you have the gendarme, you have the army, you have the bee. Okay? Now, in some situations, the reverse comes in. The bee comes in to protect the police who are there to carry out such raids and the checks. When the bee is present, the police is there to ensure that you they have called to present your ID does it. Now, if in a situation where, because the bee comes in when they must have understood that the arms used are not equal to that of the police, because there are situations where the police cannot go down to the field. So the bee will have to be there, but the police does the raid, not the bee. Not the
okay, the bee secure the parameter.
Yeah. Good.
The parameter, whereas the police
go. The police don't.
Because at least the police understand illegal issues.
Good.
And the law.
They do that. Now, when that is done, now the bee is protecting the police. Why the police people are there to enforce the law with regards to this. So whenever I hear Mr. Governor always say, they are their children, give them up. They know them, they live with them. Sir, let me come back to you. Let us be frank. Let's take the case of Moya. In Moya, as we all know, our forces that Cameroonians are paying, we are paying them, including part of your salary. This is what happens. We have the police, we have the gendarme, we have the normal army, we have the bee. If you go to Moya, within those days that this terrible act happened, the same thing with that which happened along the Mutengene Boya Road. All these forces were present on the ground. And I want to ask these questions also to you, because I want to be particular with the case of Moya. Now, how do you expect that civilian who does not have a gun, if the police goes out for work and the bee protects him, because the man who is carrying that arm has an arm higher than that of the police, you expect an ordinary civilian like you and I to stand on the way and tell these boys who do not have soul, because the Amba boys do not have soul.
No conscience.
They have sold it all. They have damaged their soul. And by so doing, when they go out, all they see, I want to believe, I said it somewhere, I said sometimes when they see human beings, they look at you as a flower. And you know, when you want to pluck a flower, you don't care how it's going to happen.
Yeah, almost.
You get it? So please, that's the situation. We can only do the best. And someone said, sometimes when you report these people, you are surprised that there was some information that comes back that someone reported from this area that this is what happens. But so the people are not protected. So how do you expect the people to cooperate?
And how do you expect the people to cooperate when they have to pay themselves out with 200,000?
That's right.
How do you expect?
It's hard.
And that's why I said that, because the punishment is not being done for defaulters, those who actually go against the professional norms, because justice should not only be done, there should be seen to have been done. But the moment the public see that this social and so military officer or police officer that did this has been punished,
the cooperation increases.
The civil and military cooperation increases.
Yes.
But the moment it's not seen to have been done, the people just...
No, there are always a way of punishing them, and they cannot properly bring them for the civilian to see.
No, but at least give a communique that so and so number of persons have been punished within the context of the Anglophone crisis. So and so military officers have been
you put them in the public. Mr. Ennis, it's a public information.
Yes.
Military tactics of the
no, Mr. Ennis, when that is done, my brother, this is a public information. When you put this information in the public that police officer A who did this action in location B was brought to book here, and this is the guy serving his J term, the people are motivated to cooperate. But when you say because there is always, it's a cliche, someone will say, I don't transfer for North, someone will say they'll transfer for Garwa.
Tah Mai Jarvis, you see, maybe Mr. Kimbang did not mean to say what he just said, that they should be. Something cannot be happening in the open, and the punishment is done in hiding. No, it is not done. Then we are preaching about accountability, and at the same time we are talking the contrary.
Because the same government is saying that the people should give up their children.
Yes.
They're not wanting to give up.
The same government tells us that drop your guns in the open. They have never said drop them in the hiding. So when they are dropping their guns, they drop them in the open, so that the population should know and be motivated to drop the guns more and more.
Okay.
I ever have the case of one policeman who once shot a bike rider in Bamenda with a gun, and his punishment was punitive transfer. And in his new area of jurisdiction, he was banned not to use a gun for about 3 years. Thank God it was at a period the crisis had not started, way back 2010, 2012, something like that. And he was almost like a laughing stock, because as he was made public, the population already knew that this man has a bad heart and that this man is undergoing some punishment. His salary is under suspension. So those are the things that we need the government to multiply. It should be done. Not the same thing where if the military atrocities and punishment should not be exposed, then why are those criminals, these thieves who call themselves ministers, locked up, and then the list made public that they are in Konengi after stealing the state funds? That is state and public accountability.
They're talking about those who are already been declared by the court as embezzlers.
Yes, they are thieves, they are criminals, we are aware. So I am saying that in the same light, the government, because where we are now, I will keep saying this thing, as the government continue to joke, thinking that time shall subdue the Anglophone crisis. No, ambassadorial crisis may end, but Anglophone crisis is staring at us in the face.
Okay.
And if it is not solved, it will be creating room for another generational war, because our children who are today, they are already aware that we are in war. And if it is not solved the real way,
thank you,
there will be room for a generational war.
Stephen Mwambo, right, Mr. Jarvis, I think you are dwelling more on blaming the government rather than pleading the cause of the suffering people of the southwest and northwest, orchestrated by barbarism or Amber Boys and their leaders. I feel like you have moved away from the topic of today. The military extort money, but we have never seen the barbarism of Amber from the military. Please tell Amber Boys and their supporters the truth, as much as also trying to tell the government the truth. I'm sure you did not listen to Mr. Nji Lucas, because he actually painted the picture as it is, blaming both sides and setting out who benefits and who makes. I'm sure also maybe he's not listening to the rest of the panelists who were also giving their responsibility that the Amber also has on the government. But however, the burden of responsibility as to who protect who is in the court of the government, because all the charter, I know the government, I don't know Amber, but I like Mr. Ndium said and raised an issue that where will he go and report Amber to Amber? That he prefers to run to the military for help than Amber, because at least the military, he knows that okay, if something is wrong. So Mr. Stephen, I don't think that maybe you have an opinion to that. I don't think that was what we're saying here. This Lucas guy is so biased with his analysis. I pray he tastes the pain of others. Maybe he will do a better analysis. This is coming from how is Mr. Lucas biased? I don't know how he biased.
Well, I think maybe you wanted me to say that Amba is a bad man and the government is an angel. Please, I want to remind us all, I have my right within the Cameroon law to say to the government when it's wrong. And they are the only people I elected. I did not elect Amba.
Okay.
And so I'm calling on the government to protect me and my property, while I'll be telling Amba that they will pay for their crime. So I think that is better. It makes it simple for you to understand who
this
has
one,
what
right?
responsibility.
If a military can hold my camion in the corner control at 5:45 a.m. on Sunday breaking Monday, asking me to pay 25,000 francs, my camion asking me to pay 25,000 francs for traveling on Ghost Town Day, means that they are encouraging Ghost Town because they are benefiting from it. Daddy B from Limbe. And from Douala to Ekok, a distance of 45,000 settlement in the past, but now my total settlement per trip is 785,000 per camion just to settle the military. Tell me, how will they want this war to end? I can send you my record of all control posts, how much they collected per camion.
Thank you.
In the whole of South
West.
If needed. I am a witness of to 5 situations where the military forces you pay ransom, or they will write you to Amba and send you to, or they will write you as Amba and send you to Boya prison. This has even happened to me in Moyuka Control, to tell you that the military don't want the war to end. This is someone who have actually experienced this. This one says, good day, House of Commons in Cameroon, both parties collect money from the citizens unlawfully in all courts and in all the courts and police stations. It is written that bail is free, but I have never seen someone taking to all these places and allowed he or her to go free. Citizens are trapped in the middle. Emmanuel from this one, right from Noni, good day to you on the street. Nobody benefit from the lockdown, government or separatists. But the civilians do suffer from it either through loss of lives or properties. The lockdown is to force the government and the Prime Minister and Head of Government, Chief Dr. Joseph Dongute, to negotiate for a real and all-inclusive dialogue with His Excellency President Paul Biya. This is real dialogue is possible. This is Noni from Boya. This one says, with them, Mr. Jarvis, I love the program. Ask those who are supporting those voices that we don't hear Atanganyi voices again. It means that all the atrocities were committed by them. People who are expecting their orders because they are not armed. If everybody was entitled to this gun, I bet you this madness would have stopped since. The Prime Minister, as we say, that it is the responsibility of the government, has paid visit of all these areas with crisis from Boya to Kumba and to Bamenda. But the Amba Boys supporters have refused to accept dialogue, and they prefer the war because they benefit from it. The family members are traveling to US every day in the name of asylum, and the common man who can't afford will die. Is coming from an anonymous sender. This other one, right, it says, happy Sunday to you guys in the studio. The government force benefit more because they are even encourage their colleagues to ask transfer to the war zone because they are eating fat. This is Rene writing from UAE. We're out of time. Mr. Ernest, what is the way forward?
We have to take collective responsibility. We have to talk to our brothers about the issues that they are committing in generations to come in the society. Preventing children from schooling, it's creating a generation of skillless individuals that will still have a repercussion on the way our brothers and sisters will be looked at in this country. We have to pave the way, like since 2020, that some separatist leaders declared that they had uplifted the ban on schools. We have to follow that voice and actually allow schools to function normally. We should stop these ghost towns issues so that the people in our area can pick up their lives back again.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming. And of course, Tiwum, thank you for coming.
No, it's a pleasure. It was a pleasure, Tah Mai Jarvis.
So thank you also, Mr. Lucas, for coming.
It's a pleasure, Tah Mai Jarvis. It has been a wonderful program. My desire is that Cameroonians who are yet to face this sad reality should take out time. Those who have doubt on the things we have said, board a car on a day set to be a lockdown. You know, Mondays are likewise lockdown days, as designated by the separatists who do not have soul. Board a car from Douala, come to Boya, or board a car when you are within Bamenda, then you understand what we are talking about with regards to the people who have decided that this conflict should not come to an end. In fact, to me, if we want this conflict to come to an end, the first thing we should do is that all these guys who are charged to protect people and their property, proper eye should be placed on them. Believe me, you will see the return of people to most of these areas moving without anyone calling for them.
Okay, thank you very much for coming, Mr. Kimba.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jarvis. Thank you to those who are there today to listen to us. Like what my friend has just said, I think those who have been charged to take care of us, they should do it with love and with conscience. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I know we're supposed to talk on two topics, but because of the issue of time constraint and also looking at the fact that we had this issue of lockdown to really hammer on to look at some of the issues, hopefully by next week Sunday we shall look at the issue of National Communication Council and vis-a-vis what should be done and who takes responsibility in regulating the press. But for my editorial, I did give a summary as far as the issue of National Communication Council and regulation of the press is concerned, which the burden of regulation is now in the hands of the National Communication Council. That's an independent regulatory body and not administrative officials, according to the law signed in by Cameroon's government, President Paul Biya, that gives the National Communication Council the power to regulate and to serve as a regulatory body to determine which media organs has gone beyond the profession. Know that the Communication Council is operating under the foundation of the canon of good journalism, fairness, equity, balance, accountability. And so I want to thank you all for coming, gentlemen, for coming. It's been a privilege to have you. And also to those of you who are watching us, if you want to participate in our program, you want to be a panelist, you can reach me on the number you see on your screen. I will include you on the program and you shall participate on the program. I want to thank the technical team for the production of today's Desmond, and also our studio manager here, and also Alan and members of the broadcasting team. This program comes up every Sunday at exactly 12 to 1:30 p.m. Rebroadcast is Sunday 10:30 p.m. and you can follow it on our YouTube channel, which is BT Media Group. Our YouTube channel is BT Media Group. You follow our programs on YouTube channel. You can visit us on our Twitter handle, My Media Prime TV. I leave you with this: no matter the matter, what matters is your matter. And what should matter for you in the Northwest and Southwest is that you should stay out of trouble. My name is Tah Mai Jarvis. Bye-bye from Cameroon's commercial capital, Douala, Fengu, John Bangor.